How's it going, guys? I am, of course, Otakushinsaku back again for another reaction, this time to a news piece put up by Tsiah 4, or Tsiah 5. I'm horrible with Roman numerals. Either case, he's claiming that Fate Tonight is going to get a remaster for its 20th anniversary, so, this is exciting. Let's get into this.
Yo, listen, man, it is a day to be remembered. It is officially the 20th anniversary since the very first release of the original Fate Stay Night, and we just came off the back of Type Moon doing their live stream to celebrate. The biggest hitter that we have coming from that is a remaster of Rialta Nua being brought to the West. It's going to be in English, it's going to be in Chinese, and of course, in the original language. This is not just a really huge step for Fate, but Type Moon and all. It finally puts the nail in the coffin of one of the many things that have been asked for years and years and years. And now if anybody wants a proper way to get into the series, that will be available to them. Right now it's slated to just be on Nintendo Switch and Steam. I'm sure they'll extend those out eventually, but at the very least, that's a good place to start, right? I will say, just from the live stream itself, everybody looks good. Crazy how they're so into their roles that they sound exactly how they did back then. Even at an older age, they're all really good at what they do. Still wishing the best for them. Before we get into the extras, I will be the one to address the elephant in the room, because I know a lot of people aren't going to do that. I'm super ingrained into the community at this point, so I feel like it's necessary, and I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. What they did on that live stream was kind of bogus. It was kind of bogus. I'm not gonna fake. There were a lot of pitfalls. I'm happy that they did prioritize getting the remaster out, because that is absolutely necessary even still. And then there's the other side where it's like, for the 20th anniversary, they definitely could have did a little bit more. Definitely could have did more. The live stream itself was only an hour, maybe just a little bit more than that. And the main thing that a lot of people were hoping and wishing for was to finally get that adaptation of the Fate route. We didn't get that. They didn't speak anything of it. And honestly, at this point, it almost feels like they're trying to act like the route doesn't even exist, at least to me. And he has went on record saying how he's embarrassed how that route came together. We've covered that on the channel. Maybe I'm tripping, but I just find it kind of odd that they're going out of their way to weave not making the first book of the story. It's the strangest thing ever to me. And Fate isn't even my favorite route. UB-Dub is. I don't care how much context somebody think that they might have. We would always welcome with open arms that original introduction, because if we're celebrating where it all comes from, if we're celebrating where it truly all started, it almost seems like a slight to not.
Now, here's the thing. I just want to say here, but because clearly he's going on about the anime, which is true. I would love for there to be for them to do a proper adaptation of the Fate route, because the Fate route anime that we got was a mixture of Fate and Unlimited Blade Works. Like with a little bit of Heaven's Field tacked on there for, here and there. Like basically that first Fate Stay Night anime by Studio Dean was like a mixture of like all three routes. Like it clearly comes off as them believing that they may never get a chance to do a Fate Stay Night adaptation, so they just like jumped the gun and like threw everything into a massive blender. And where I would prefer a proper adaptation of the Fate route, especially being the fact that I disagree with Tsiah. My favorite route in terms of storytelling is Heaven's Feel. My favorite route in terms of like anything I'd prefer to be adapted is Fate, the original Fate route, because the Fate route is like basically like the classical hero's journey story and stuff like that. Like if there's any route that will get people into the story, it is Fate, and it makes sense why that is the first route that the game forces you to read. It is literally designed to be a fantastic introduction, not just to Fate Stay Night, but the entire Type Moon mythos. But with that being the case, I still, I still prefer in terms of raw storytelling Heaven's Feel, and Heaven's Feel is my personal favorite route again for storytelling and all of that, and also the ideas presented that you can really like bite your teeth into and all of that. Whereas Fate again, classic hero's journey, heroes, just like literal it is literally just Shiro doing the best he can to be the hero for humanity. Um, in his own way. It's why also again that's why the plot twist in Unlimited Blade works is because of the fact that uh, you can contextualize that with the reason why Archer doesn't want to kill Shiro in the Fate route is because that Shiro is like above and beyond a hero from humanity, plus the fact that he's got that personal connection to Artoria that Archer never had. When Archer was doing his thing in his version of the Grail War, he just used Artoria as a tool. That's he was the classical Magus. Like he just looked at Artoria as a tools and a means to an end. Whereas when Archer sees that Shiro is willing to literally basically kill himself to protect Artoria, his servant. Again, it's at moments like that where Archer's like, fine, maybe if I kill you on quote unquote accident with my bows or with my arrow or whatever, then fine, sure. But you're not my target because you're not me. I would never throw myself in front of Hercules to protect a servant. His servants are tools, and I understand that. Whereas, in Fate, obviously, it's the Artoria route, and so Shiro falls in love with Artoria. And she, at the end, falls in love with him back. Again, spoilers for a story that came out in 2004, by the way. Plus, clearly from my comment section, I'm speaking to the choir on this because most of the people that actually comment on my videos are also Fate fans, so they would more than likely know that yes, at the end of the Fate route, Artoria turns around and says, "I love you, Shiro." Um. So, yeah. Again, in terms of if you want like a classical hero's journey and stuff like that, plus a story that leaves you with good feelings that actually does have a legitimately happy ending. Out of all the endings in all of the routes, the Fate route ending is legitimately the absolute happiest. Uh, especially being the fact that if especially the fact that again, I'm speaking from the original game. By the way, I never have played Rialta Nua. I just know of the changes they made. But in the original game, the original 2004 game, prior to Rialta Nua, if you go through everything, you can unlock an additional ending where it shows that Shiro, more than like, and because this is like, and it's heavily implied that this is the Fate route Shiro, actually does make it to Avalon and gets back, to his Artoria. So, with that being the case, and also again with that ending keeping in mind with context, you can also say that Fate has the absolute happiest ending because not only does that version of Shiro, fall in love and all of that stuff, but he also we know this from a canonical fact that at least in a timeline that we see, he does make it to Avalon and reunite with his version of Artoria, which is a extremely happy ending because Avalon is a place in the reverse side of the world, and anyone who's inside of it, it's supposed to just be for Merlin and Artoria, like in King Arthur, but basically anyone who's there. So that would include now Shiro is permanently protected. It is the perfect afterlife for King Arthur specifically. There is no strife. There's no hunger, no want, or anything like that. It is literally just green fields and the perfect utopia of Britannia for King Arthur. So you can also claim that that's an extremely happy ending because not only does Shiro get Artoria back, but he now forever and ever and ever for the rest of eternity gets to hang out in Avalon and there's no worry, there's no strife, there's no struggle, there's nothing he has to worry about other than relaxation until the end of time, because he is in the personal afterlife for King Arthur. So, again, of all the endings of all the endings of all the routes, the Fate route is the absolute happiest. Whereas in terms of heavy hitting and again storytelling, I prefer Heaven's Feel. Uh, and I was disappointed with the Heaven's Feel adaptations. I was excited at first that we were getting full movies instead of just TV episodes. But when the movies came out, I was massively disappointed because one of the major themes of Heaven's Feel is adolescent sexuality, right? It is sexuality when you're a teenager and you're growing up and stuff like that. Like sexuality and sexual themes are sexuality, sexual themes, and especially sexual assault are a major theme in Heaven's Feel, and they massively tone that down in the movies. It is by no mistake, clearly, that the Heaven's Feel route has the most hentai scenes, has the most H scenes of all the routes. It is by no mistake that in terms of quantity, Heaven's Feel is loaded with them. Because again, that's kind of, if not one of the major themes of the route. And by having just one H scene ish, they don't it's not even a full H scene, by the way. You get frontal, sure, in the scene, but then they do the classical movie thing of cutting away. Whereas in the original story, you're there as the audience inside of Shiro's head for every pump and thrust in every one of those themes, in every one of those scenes. And again, at first, it can seem gratuitous, but then on reflection, when you actually reflect on what the major themes of the story are, it starts to make sense. And you start to see what the point of all of that was. And so it's sad that the Heaven's Feel movie massively toned that down and just made it a slightly darker version of the Unlimited Blade Works route. So for me, I agree we should get in terms of priority, we should get a proper adaptation of the Fate route. But if you ask me in my opinion, I would also, if I could ask for a greedy thing, I would also ask for a proper adaptation of the Heaven's Feel route, because we didn't get that with the 3 movies. But that's just me.
Bring Fate into the equation. So I will say that. Another thing that I'm noticing about the remaster that they
also, there, I just thought of something. This is Rialto Nua. We're getting a remaster of Rialto Nua, which is also really sad because of the fact of the changes that Rialto Nua made to the story. Being the fact that, if I'm not wrong, Rialto Nua censored a lot of things, especially the H scenes, which is sad. So, again, this video is my first time hearing about any of this. I sincerely hope that that they make this remaster as uncensored as possible. For the Switch, I get it, but for Steam especially, because Steam allows full-on hentai games. Let's not kid ourselves. If you really think that Steam is a censorship haven, you have not been on the Steam store page, especially if you have an account that is over the age of 18. Steam will fucking machine gun blast you with your homepage of H games if you give it a chance. Not only do you get H games, you get H games that are made for VR. So Steam has no problem with sex and sexuality. So, with that being the case, especially for the Steam release, I sincerely hope that Fate Stay Night is as uncensored as possible, and we get as much of the original content that was released in 2004 as possible. because that was the story I read. I read a fan English dub patch for the original game. Again, pre-Real Tanua. So I got the original game as it was in 2004, uncensored. Every H scene included, all that stuff. That's what I read. That's what got me into Fate Stay Night. So I hope that this is as uncensored as they can possibly make it. But with where Type Moon currently is, you know, I'm not optimistic, right? Again, there's a video on my channel where about me talking about this very thing and ranting about the state of the Fate franchise in terms of its censorship and toning down a lot of the themes that were previously majorly apparent in the Fate franchise, especially sexuality. So I'm hopeful, but not overly optimistic that this remaster is not going to be censored and butchered to all hell.
It did give out. I don't know if you guys know, but the remaster doesn't even have new art. It doesn't have new art. They didn't show new pictures. As a matter of fact, the pictures that they showed are the exact same pictures that were being put on social media today. Literally no difference. No updates to the graphical effects. I'm even seeing some people say that it looks like an upscale of the remaster that they had put out over a decade ago. So when I look at things like that, I can't call it anything but lazy. That's just lazy. There's too much money and too much support being poured into the franchise for it to be 20 years for people to just get their proper language. And it isn't even majority of them. At this point, it feels like the community, people that have done the fan translation, some that a lot of people love to put down because it's not quote unquote official, they have put in more work into making sure the community can thrive in that department than the actual creators themselves. That's very weird, I gotta call it. As a person that's been into Type Moon for over a decade at this point, the fact that this is what they decided to lead with, I'm looking at it in shock. So you already know the day ones, the people on Beast Lair, I know that they're sick. Bro, you should have seen the comments when they were like, sayonara, and they just cut the live stream. I'm like, yo, there's no way. People out here pouring salt in the wounds, talking about Tsukihime is better, keep on coping. I'm seeing threads already of people making fun of the people that thought there was gonna be a Fate route adaptation or anything of the sort. This is absolutely hilarious. Still a great day for Type Moon history. I don't want to somber the whole mood of the video because I'm still super grateful to be a part of the community and to say that I found Fate in general, to say that I found Type Moon in general, because I love their work. I love all the effort that they do put in, at least in the things that they do decide to address. I've been making videos on their content for years. I hope it helped to some extent. I hope the people that follow me got at least a little bit out of it. I know some people have come to the channel and said, hey, you really pointed me in the right direction when I didn't know where to go. Even now, I've seen a lot of people say this recently. Every little bit helps, but I had to say something. I would be straight fraudulent if I didn't say anything because that was crazy. Still keeping hope alive. You know that there's the Hollow Ataraxia anniversary coming up next year, the original Real Tanua anniversary coming up in the next few years, so they do have ample opportunities to address that. But just looking at it for what it is, considering that they put this out, I can't even say that I'm looking to them doing a project of that nature, whether it be an adaptation or them flat out doing anything from the ground up at all, because from what it appears, it's a lot of remastering going on, which is cool. It's just that if you're gonna remaster after all this time, maybe you can throw in some extras, some additional scenes that we haven't seen from before, some behind the scenes of the way that you guys got to where you're at in the first place, you know, something real wholehearted. But the idea of them using the same cover art from 2007 and just slapping remaster on that is ridiculous. Same pictures, same photos that I just saw before the live stream came out. We gotta tighten up. Whatever the case may be, I still had a great time, still having one. The grind never stops. I'm not even close to being tired of Type Moon. Proud of them doing their 20 years, and I'm looking forward to 20 more. We also have them releasing the official version of the Heaven's Feel soundtrack, which I would have thought that it was already out at this point. I didn't even know that that hadn't been released yet, because the Heaven's Feel movies have been done since 2020. By now it's 2024. So yeah, glad to see them finally getting that out. Still falls in line with some of those things that we kind of should have had already, if I'm being honest. Soundtrack is set up to drop March 27th for anybody that's looking for that. Amazing soundtrack, by the way, but we know that the soundtrack is a really powerful tool for them, especially objectively some of the best music, some of the best production that I've heard in not just anime, but in general. It really clears a lot of series. Sometimes I hear soundtracks and I don't even recall them being there, but Fate once again is iconic for that. Also seeing a lot of people say that they might use Ultra in the remaster for anybody that cares or wants to have a lot of fun with that. And then we have some additional artwork from the creators themselves to celebrate this event coming back around. In the top left we got Ren, and you can kind of see Archer fading into the background, all black and white. They decided to not color this one. The dynamic duo from UB-Dub, how could you not give them their shine? Next one over appears to be a lot more modern. We got Sakura and her servant Medusa with the cherry blossoms in the background. Always a nice touch when it concerns bringing around her character, and they both look good. They both look excited to be there. We got Karin in the top right, who is Kirei's daughter. I feel like this is the oddest one out of all of them. Very weird posture that she has. I feel like they made this with the community in mind, but I do like the 20th sketch to the side, and I like the way that it's encased inside of her shroud. Only thing that's missing at this point is a little bit of my boy Angra, and maybe even Bazette if they were gonna decide to go the Hollow Ataraxia route. I'm surprised they prioritized that for the release of this instead of releasing some art for Hollow Ataraxia for the anniversary that's coming up. On the bottom left, we got a picture of Ilya once again in all black and white. Love the way that she's throwing up the peace signs with both of her hands and the way that she has them crossed. A lot of people may try to slight Ilya, but we gotta give credit where credit is due. She looks really nice here. I almost wish that it was colored, but I also think that it's fine just the way that it is. For the bottom middle, we have multiple characters on display. Starting off with Saber and Ren, we got Shiro and his future self Emiya holding up the white banner over everybody off to the side. And then at the bottom we got Medusa, Sakura, and Ilya, essentially the forefront characters of every single one of the routes. And they're all pretty much celebrating the anniversary in the picture itself. Really like the effort that was put into this one. And then finally, as a curveball, we have Kane in the middle from the Track Girl trio. We got Yukika to the right of her, and then to the left you can't really tell because her entire face is in flame and she's shooting out fire, but I'm sure this is Kaede because they don't go anywhere without each other. It's only right that she's in the picture also, so I'm glad to see them getting some shine, as definitely needed. And then in the background, you got my girl, Curry Senpai, CL from Tsukihime. So this is more of a crossover as opposed to all of the other pictures that we had up until this point. And it appears that in the picture itself, Kaede has decided to try out some of CL's flatbread and found out the hard way, you might not be built for this. I'm sure that's the whole reason that she's there. It looks like she's running a stand. If anything, she should have had Kirei try some of her bread, since we all know with his love for Mapo Tofu, he's ready for the heat at all times. Ultimately though, solid anniversary. Could have been better, always can be, but I was expecting more things that was fresh instead of kind of addressing things that, like I said, the community should have had to begin with, or just polishing off things that we already had. So I hope the follow-up anniversary is better. Love these characters, love this series. I learned a lot from getting into Fate itself. It goes way beyond just the work on its own. It got me interested into so many things, so many people, so many cultures that I more than likely wouldn't have beforehand, or if I did, it would have taken a longer time and I would have gotten to them through something else. So I'm glad Fate opened up that door for me in terms of mythology, in terms of history, and everything of the like. Yo.
I mean, I totally agree with everything you said about getting about the Fate franchise and everything. It's why, you know, I as I keep repeating, I criticize Fate and I criticize Type Moon because I love it so much, right? And when you love something, you know, apathy is death. Like if you know, so when people think that I criticize Fate, therefore I must not like it or hate it or whatever. No, if I hated Fate, then I'd be apathetic about Fate, and therefore I wouldn't have any opinions on it, positive or negative. But I criticize Fate because I want Fate to be better in what, in my opinion, is better. Uh, Mainly I want Fate to be the franchise that it started out as, and it's fitting that on this anniversary we're talking about the original, release. Uh, that's what I want it to be. That's why I complain. I complain about Fate because I want Fate to be, closer to what it originally started out as, you know, a H game for adults that has a fucking engrossing story and characters you care about, right? Like, again, it really disappoints me when you play Samurai Remnant, as I said again in that rant, where it's massively toned down in terms of adult content from what literally the franchise started out as. And it's the same thing with Fate Grand Order. You play Fate Grand Order, and there's like nothing. Like, the entire time the game keeps telling you that, oh, the world is coming to an end. Oh, you gotta do these. You gotta do. You have to go through this and. Go and then eventually, oh, you go through all that, you go through all the singularities, and then you have to, go through all these lost belts, and like, unlike in the original Fate Stay Night and even Hollow Ataraxia, I feel nothing. Like, I feel numb because of the fact that you don't experience like any pain or loss because the game is so scared of showing even the tiniest bit of blood, right? Like, and it's so scared of doing anything crazy. Like, again, we're talking about a video game where some of the servants that can be summoned as enemy servants are legitimate, like, serial killers. We're talking, like, literally Jack the Ripper. We're talking literally Jekyll and Hyde, and, and the absolute worst of the worst from human history. And then, of course, you tackle on the Whore of Babylon and the Beast and everything, and all of that, and again, feel numb because of the fact that you don't see anything. Like, are you sitting there telling me that all the Whore of Babylon is going to do, like, if hypothetically the Whore of Babylon actually were to rise in our real world, the only thing that the Whore of Babylon would do is just stand in an empty field cackling like a, 1980s cartoon villain? No. Like, the Whore of Babylon would do some fucked up shit. And I want to see that fucked up shit. I want to see that shit depicted. I want to see our main character that we're playing as have to witness, like what Shiro had to witness, and especially Heaven's Feel, some really fucked up shit. Right? I want our main character to understand what they're fighting back against, right? The light only means, like, the light only has significance because of the darkness it repels, right? And darkness only has meaning because of the light it, it destroys, it sucks in, whatever you want to call it, right? Things only have meaning because of their opposites. Good only has meaning because of its opposition to evil. Evil only has meaning because of its opposition to good. And so I want that, right? In Fate Stay Night, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a remaster here of Fate Stay Night. We get that. When, you know, when Korei tells Shiro that there are consequences to using Archer's arm, we see that. We get to experience through Shiro's head all of the pain and anguish as every individual cell of his body becomes swords. Because the arm is causing Archer's reality marble to flip, invert. So instead of it being a separate dimension, the reality marble is now becoming Shiro. Shiro's body is becoming Unlimited Blade Works. And we get to and instead of it just saying that, we actually, as the audience, we get to experience that. As there are many times where the screen cuts to red and we hear Shiro, biting back blood as his body slowly becomes swords. Or for Sakura, we actually get to be in Sakura's head. We are in Sakura's mind from her perspective as her brother Shinji is sexually assaulting her. So Fate Stay Night holds nothing back. Whereas Samurai Remnant and Grand Order hold everything back. These modern day Fate stories, they baby the audience, right? They absolutely baby the audience and go, look, we understand you're little babies, so at most, we'll show you a character having a nosebleed. That's it. There's no massive amounts of blood. It's just a slight little, slight little scratch. Yeah, no. No, I want to see straight up body horror, right? I would love for there to be a Fake Grand Order Singularity written by the writers of the Saw franchise, right? I want to see some straight up fucked up shit. Because I want there to be a meaning for why we're doing this. It's like, oh, now you've seen the fucked up shit that the villain is willing to do. Now you understand why defeating the villain is massively important. Instead of just being told that there are lives on the line, some, ethereal human lives on the line, you actually get to see the human lives that you are saving, or the human lives that were cost in order to save this lost belt or whatever, right? I want to see, what happens. I want it to be as, in a way, realistic as possible, right? When a servant gets attacked with an ability that cuts off a servant's arm, I want to see that arm cut off and blood just absolutely gushing out of it. Again, straight up Saw stuff. I want the franchise to go straight up Jigsaw and just show it. Like they did in the original story. Because again, this all makes sense. So, but that's not, for lack of a better word, route that Type Moon has decided to go after. Type Moon has decided to go after the route of absolute mass audience appeal, and they have decided to go the full route of turning the Fate franchise, and all their franchise, to be honest, away from adults-only material to basically being shonen stories at best. They are straight up selling their franchises for, at the oldest, 14-year-olds now. They're no longer selling these stories for adults. They're selling their stories for 13 and 14-year-olds. And so they are massively downplaying the violence. They're massively downplaying the sexuality. They're massively downplaying all of the stuff that made me fall in love with the original story that's being remastered here. Right? Because what made me fall in love with the original story is the fact that the story didn't baby me. The story respected me as an adult and said, you can handle some fucked up shit, so we're gonna give you the fucked up shit. And Real Tanua, even like not Real Tanua, but Whole Ataraxia, even more so. Again, like the things that Ongra Manyu does to Kurei's daughter in the end, like for those who know, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, like. And it's sad because he's like, well, I hope we get a remaster of Hollow Action. Honestly, I hope we don't, because of the fact that if we do, a lot of it is probably going to be massively censored and shit, because Type Moon is just so fucking scared of, of their roots. Like, Type Moon is so terrified of releasing anything Fate related that has any sort of adult violence or adult sexuality and heavy themes in it. Like, it's sad, but what are you gonna do, right? In either case, I am Otakushinsaku. Thank you guys for watching this reaction. I hope to see you guys next time for the next reaction. Bye.